is up, everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and thanks to Disney Plus, I decided to rewatch a film that I haven't seen in such a long time. I'm talking about Home Alone 3! Because why would I go out of my way to watch Home Alone 3? Other than the fact that I wanted to see if this movie was bad, terrible, or maybe better than I'm gonna give it credit for. Let's see. It's directed by Raja Gosnell, if that name sounds familiar, or if I mispronounced it similarly like how I have before. It's because this guy has directed a few stuff, most notably the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. So maybe that immediately makes you think, oh no, yeah, this is gonna suck. I understand that. I didn't hate the live-action Scooby-Doo movies. But with this, originally Macaulay Culkin was supposed to come back and reprise his character to do this third movie. I think he would have been around 13, 14 years old, and I guess at some point during the development, I couldn't tell which story was true. I saw one thing that said that he decided to quit acting. Macaulay Culkin was like, F this mess, I'm done with Hollywood, and you wouldn't see him act for many, many years. Or if it was one of the producers that said, okay, yeah, this kid is too old by this point to still have a believable situation where him being home alone would still feel threatening and not feel like it's coming out of nowhere. So whatever the reason is, though, it's not the case. The Alex D. Lintz plays Alex, in case he needed to remember his actual name. First things first, it was very weird to hear the original Home Alone theme at the beginning of this. The same theme that we heard in the first two movies. It's just weird to have a different story, different kid, different situation, and yet we're hearing that same music. It's great. It's John Williams. It makes sense, but I just didn't think it fit this film. Alex, I didn't hate this kid. He certainly isn't amongst maybe the top 10 worst kid actors, child actors that I've ever seen. I thought he was fine. He did the role that he was required to do. The whole deal with him getting chickenpox and being stuck at home, I don't know if he necessarily needed the whole chickenpox thing, because it's not like Alex acts sick, or if that plays into a major factor in his demeanor or the things that he does. Not so much. It's just a reason for him to be home away from school. So this is their version of how to do that. The father travels for his job. In fact, the father is played by Kevin Kilner. I want to mention him because he was in a movie called Smart House that I recently watched for the first time. Once again, thanks to Disney Plus. But he wasn't in the movie that much. It's mostly the mother, played by Haviland Morris, where she's fine. It's just hard, man. It's hard for me to get into these characters. It's hard for me to get into the kid or the parents or the family dynamics in the same way that I got into the first two movies. And it helps that the first two movies has the same actors and family in both films. We spent two movies with those characters. Like, am I really supposed to just start anew and care about these characters, especially when they don't come off as interesting or as fun to watch as Macaulay Culkin did? But his whole deal, like I said, he's home with the chicken pox, and he discovers, while he's looking outside his window with binoculars, he discovers that these four criminals, they're not the low-level criminals that Harry and Marv were in the first two movies. They seem like they're the real deal. And they're in the neighborhood because they accidentally, at the airport, misplaced their chip that's inside of a race car. Another old lady picked up the bag, and so they're looking for her house. And what do you know? The old lady happened to give Alex the same car race car because he shoveled her driveway and that was his payment. What a cheapskate that lady is. I mean, it's not even like she bought the damn car. She found it by accident and just gave it to him. And so you see Alex, he's constantly calling the cops, constantly trying to do the right thing. You can appreciate that, but it never quite goes his way. The criminals always evade the cops, makes the cops look like they're either incompetent or always late. It could be a mixture of the two. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised. But the problem with the four criminals, though, is that in the first two movies, when Harry and Marv, I know I keep comparing, how can you blame me? How can you not blame me? It's something that's like, you can't not compare a movie that's called Home Alone 3 to the first two Home Alone movies. So, Harry and Marv, they were goofy. They were dumb. They were criminals that it makes sense, and you can buy that a young boy can get the best of them, outsmart them, and do what he does in that movie. Plus, MACAULAY could sell it as well as he did. Where this movie, these four criminals are supposed to be legit, like spies and some real dirty criminal activity. I don't know if I buy that they can be outsmarted or that they could be this dispatched easily. Remember, there's four of them, not just two, four of them. And none of them can get a handle on this young boy. Just once again, the actors, they played it a lot more straight early on. So again, they didn't come off as goofy until you had all the goofy stuff happen to them. I wasn't as amused. I didn't find myself laughing. I guess it helped that I didn't hate the movie. I think that's where I come down to it. I don't hate Home Alone 3. I don't think it's the worst, of the worst. But I can't help but compare it to the first two. I can't help but be severely disappointed, severely let down, and not impressed at all with what they did in Home Alone 3. But really quick, I should mention this. How could I go the whole review without mentioning? Alex has a sister in the movie, and she's played by Scarlett Johansson. I don't know how old she was. She was like 13 or 14 or whatever. But it was just weird. It was like, it's so clearly Scarlett Johansson. She's clearly a child actor. I don't know how long she had been in the business at this point. It's funny that she blew up more than really anybody else in this film. I almost wonder and think how much more interesting could this have been if she was the main character, if she was the one who was home alone and sick, and maybe if you're going to argue that she's too old to have it be a whole Home Alone situation. It's actually more believable for somebody her age to be home alone with the chickenpox, one, and two, be old enough, mature enough, and smart enough to pull off some of these traps and do some of the things that I guess Alex does. I don't know. Maybe too, it would have been interesting to have a female girl be the main character. Obviously, it's in retrospect. Obviously, you see Scarlett Johansson and you think, yeah, wasted opportunity to not have her star as the lead. But whatever, it is what it is. Yeah, this movie, I guess, if some people, here's what I'm curious about. Is anybody out there saying that Home Alone 3 is their favorite of the Home Alone movies? I'd be shocked. I guess I got to know. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!